This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is your holiday edition, coming off of the heels of Christmas, heading into the new year. This is also your World's End pay-per-view pre-show. We've got it all for you here, helping me break it all down, sort it all out. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Man, a lot of good stuff happening in the world of wrestling. We are now days away from the Netflix premiere of WWE, AEW pay-per-view. Finally, I don't want to, cheer the end of a show, but Rampage is no more.
Finally done.
Finally, I just think that that's probably the best decision for AEW in regards to that show, but a lot to get to. I'm excited. World's End has the potential, and I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care if I go down by 6, 7, 8 points. They better have the final that I predict. Otherwise, I'm going to be highly upset. But a lot of good things happening in WWE, and a lot of great things happening in TNA, and a good 2024 for the world of wrestling.
Yeah, and later on in the show, this TNA star sounds like they could be WWE bound, and it sounds like it could be very, very quick. We'll have some news and notes on all of that. There's a lot of stuff to get to. Let's start with WWE, because we're going to spend quite a bit of time with AEW. We're going to talk a little bit about Rampage finally ending. A lot of stuff in the wrestling world, because of the way the holidays fell, were pre-taped. Raw was no different. Raw was pre-taped. And I think the best thing on this Raw episode is the return and the presentation of Drew McIntyre over the last couple of weeks. I kind of want to get your take on what you think about them taking this bit, this new character, if you will. I really feel like it's just a more ratcheted up character of what you had when he faced CM Punk. It's a bit of a crybaby presentation, but they're turning it into a psychological motivation. They're hammering home what drives Drew McIntyre. And I think Drew McIntyre, whether it is doing stuff on air with WWE or doing stuff other places in real life, I think what he's giving you is a very authentic version of what this character is. He's giving you this very real life character. It's a little bit gritty. It's a little bit, I want to say there is definitely motive and there's motivation for what drives him. And it's all very obtainable. It's all, you know, people like this. You work with people like this. You see people like this every day. I think this has been one of the better, I don't want to say recalibrations of a character, but it's been a better ratcheting up. It's been a better addition to a character that we've seen. And it makes Drew McIntyre feel so real. And it makes his motivation, and makes him being the bad guy feel like it's okay to root for him because you understand where he's coming from. I think you get a little bit of that with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, I think, when that promo he did leading into the Saturday night's main event, I think Kevin Owens gave you a promo where you're like, yeah, I kind of get why you're upset. I understand where you're coming from, and you're not necessarily a bad guy here. It helps to paint a more gray image. Everything's not black and white. There's not always this good and there's not always this evil. There is this stuff in the middle. And sometimes you might lean a little bit more heel than babyface. That's probably where Drew McIntyre is. But I think it comes off as very real and very authentic, and I love it. What are your thoughts on this new version of Drew McIntyre that we're getting?
Yeah, it's believable. And that's where a character, when you have probably input from Drew, you recognize that, you know, when you're telling stories, a lot of it involves when you have a little bit of realism. I'm sure that, you know, Triple H in his creative process sits with the wrestlers and definitely gets their input. And when you have an opportunity to find out what's making someone tick, you realize, okay, Drew McIntyre, the best place for him is WWE. And they've taken this character and evolved it. And it's been great to see. And I just think that the highlight now of him kind of going after the bloodline is really interesting, especially after a 24 that was kind of just highlighted by his feud with CM Punk. Now you get a chance to see him really get after it against some top name stars. And basically, hey, I've been wronged and I'm coming to try and look. I mean, no better way to try and get revenge when you go after a group that cost you a title opportunity in your home country when you wanted something so bad. So I just think that the story fits the character that they're trying to tell and get over.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's interesting, if you look at what you've been getting from Drew McIntyre, you look at the story that Drew McIntyre is telling, it's very similar to the same story that Kevin Owens is telling. I'm wondering if maybe we get a mega stable. If maybe they take this motivation, this hatred of the bloodline, this hatred of CM Punk. You look at Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens in real life does not have a relationship with CM Punk and has talked about it. They used to be friends, no more, and they don't really like each other. And he's been very vocal about it. It's been publicized. Also, he is on this rampage against Cody Rhodes because of the bloodline. And then you look at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins helped defeat Roman Reigns in that match to help make Cody a champion. He also has issues with CM Punk. You've got these three monster stars, these three mega weights, if you will. Could we get a mega stable? And would you be into seeing a stable full of Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens basically waging war on the bloodline and CM Punk all at the same time?
Yeah, that'd be fun, right? Very creative booking. Based on what we saw on SmackDown, doesn't look like Kevin Owens will be in the Rumble, but it would have been cool maybe to see it in the Rumble as well. You know what I mean? Where you have like 6 guys left and a couple of them are the bloodline. But you look at it and you say, whenever you have a lot of individuals that have a common goal, you can do some tag matches, some 6-man, and you just basically can sprinkle it in some programming. Now that you're going to 3 hours, extended programming on some shows you're doing. So this is, I love the idea. I think that, clearly the bloodline has an impact and has impacted a lot of wrestlers. And now in 25, the answer is going to be, what do the wrestlers that have been impacted, how do they move forward? Because, yeah, you told the story of the bloodline, and now you can kind of swing back to tell the story of what does it mean for Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. And I think everybody would love to see kind of what they try and do to avenge the wrongs that have happened to them.
Yeah, it's like retribution now. You spent what was it? It was Paul Heyman's quote where we're just in the bottom of the 3rd inning or something like that, and we're like, what are you talking about? This has been going on for like a year and a half now. Now you kind of get the back 7, 8, 9 innings, probably not the 9th inning, but the 7 and the 8th, and this is now where you have to now pay for everything that you've done. And you could see that being done. I think it could be really well done, well written, very, very creative to get a group of guys who have the same bonding, the same goal. The enemy of my enemy is now my friend type of deal, where Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens don't need to come together to work together, but they're all there trying to support each other for what the ultimate end goal is, and that is the demise of the bloodline and the demise of CM Punk. Speaking of Kevin Owens, it was announced on Friday Night SmackDown. I believe that was the only live show, the only live wrestling show we had this week was SmackDown. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, they're going to be in a ladder match at the Royal Rumble, and it sounds as though we're going to have 2 belts suspended high above the ring, which I'm all for. I think this is maybe where we get that transition of that championship. Maybe we end up going back to the wing-tipped championship. And I think this could be, Cody climbs the ladder and he reaches up and he grabs that belt and he takes that belt down and wins the match. And that is now his new belt. I think that would be really, really cool if that was the case. It was obviously well received. WWE pays attention to social media. I want to get your thoughts on Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes going into a ladder match at the Royal Rumble, and possibly coming out of it with the wing-tipped belt instead of the giant W belt.
It's a ladder match, and I just think that, man, it's just an unbelievable. I love seeing Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes with Nick Aldis in the ring. Look, it's one of those deals where we just kind of thought that, okay, Kevin Owens is going to fight Cody Rhodes, but it kind of had that slow build, and then you started to add the reason why. And I just think that for Cody Rhodes, one of the biggest questions this year was, okay, who's going to start to be a reasonable defender, somebody that reasonable opponent, opposition for him. And they found one in Kevin Owens. You have a why, you have an angry Kevin Owens. The problem is, and this is the tough part, and I get it, but nobody believes that Kevin Owens has a chance to win So a lot of it is going to be, well, what happens when he loses? Is he going to snap? Is he going to, what's going to happen as a result of the fact that Kevin Owens loses? So I do think that, I don't think Kevin Owens is going to take a step back, but it's just tough because, you have all this great story, but it's just one of those deals where I'm not so certain how you make it more believable that Kevin Owens wins it, because you have a mega event in WrestleMania 41. You're talking about big stars potentially that could face Cody Rhodes after Kevin Owens. So I just hope that the build-up continues to be as good as it has been. But it's just tough because I would say if you polled 100 people, 100 people would put Cody Rhodes down as being the winner.
Yeah, I think Cody comes out the champion. I don't necessarily see him losing his championship belt until maybe WrestleMania. I think the thing that I do love about this, when's the last time we actually just had a ladder match? I think the last time we had a ladder match, and the only time we really get a ladder match is for Money in the Bank. I can't remember the last time we had just a ladder match. I think that goes back to kind of what Triple H does creatively, right? He likes to reach into this bag of nostalgia. Like, they have slowly extinct ladder matches in WWE. Ladder matches now became tables, ladders, and chair matches. It became Money in the Bank. You haven't had just a ladder match, and I can't tell you how long. I think the last one I remember included it might have been Shawn Michaels, and it might have been Razor Ramon. I mean, it's been forever since we've had a ladder match, and I think it's awesome to kind of throw that type of stipulation, that type of match in just the ladder match, not a tables, ladders, and chairs. Because I was like, as they were making this announcement, I was like, tables, ladders, and chairs, tables, ladders, and chairs. And then Cody's like, a ladder match. And I was like, how cool is that? Like, how awesome. Just a ladder match. You don't need all the extra shit. Just a ladder match. I thought it was fantastic. What are your thoughts on just having just a ladder match, kind of reaching, like I said, into that bag of nostalgia and bringing just this stipulation back, not all the extra stuff, not the tables, not the chairs, just the ladder match.
Yeah, everyone loves it, right? You just get the idea of and I mean, everyone expects Kevin Owens to do crazy spots. Does Cody get in the mix too? Try and top Kevin Owens, because we all know Kevin's climbing to the top. And Cody's probably going to do a Cody cutter off the ladder, or he's going to shove him off of it. Is there going to be what is Kevin Owens willing to do at the Royal Rumble? And that's just going to be the fun part of it. Look, I do think that you got two wrestlers that understand the history of the company. They understand Shawn and Razor, and I think that going into it, they've had the talk like, okay, let's try and top it. And I think the challenge is there. It's going to be hard because you look at the psychology of that Razor and Shawn match. Just go and watch it. Go enjoy it. It's just one of those matches that was clear. It was a great match. It set the tone for what's to come, and it's just two great wrestlers in Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Go watch it. It was one of the all-time classic matches, and the visual of Razor Ramon with the two belts is a lasting legacy for the history of that company. So I can't wait to see what they're trying to do, what they're willing to do, and can they reach the mountaintop there and try and top one of the greatest ladder matches of all time.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a high bar to obtain. I think both these guys can do it. Again, like you said, Cody Rhodes is going to do something. He's going to try to match what Kevin Owens can bring, and Kevin Owens can definitely bring it. He's going to do some type of a crazy stunt off of a ladder or something into a ladder, because that's what he does. Sticking with WWE, anything else that stood out to you this week? You had Monday Night Raw, even NXT if you want to throw it in the hopper, and you had SmackDown. Yeah,
look. In looking at how everything has gone, I kind of have been liking, the way in which Andrade and LA Knight and kind of the mid-card has evolved. You look at it, and I do think that the Raw Tag Team Champions flipping has been beneficial. You're going to get probably more defenses now on Raw, so we complained that the titles weren't focused on. I do like the Raiders getting their opportunity finally healthy. I think that now that sets up very well for a nice 2025 for them. And look, in the end, when you crown a U.S. Women's Champion, now it's what's next. I thought the Michin, I think, was the performer that interrupted Chelsea Green, and I just thought that it was hilarious on U.S. soil, a Canadian coming out and doing that bit to celebrate to celebrate her title win, I thought was great. And I just think that what's next for her is going to be big. We complained that a lot of the women's stuff that was coming out was not as interesting, but I do think that some things can emerge. The one thing I didn't like is we talked about it before. I'm not really a fan of Bailey. I'm not a fan of Naomi just stepping in with Bianca Belair and just being the champion. It's just they need
it's weird,
work.
Right?
It's weird. It needs work to be able to get to that next step. But in the end, I've enjoyed what WWE did to wrap up the year, and now you're getting the teases all week long of what's going to happen on January 6th. They're talking WrestleMania-style programming for that first show. They want to kick it off. And we saw the NFL on Christmas. It wasn't horrible. There were some early audio issues, but you're not going to get nearly 25 million people watching Monday Night Raw. You're probably going to get 3 to 4. So I fully expect great audio, great production, and WWE is going to shine on Netflix. I can't wait to see how that evolves, because the great thing too is now additional programming comes up with Legends and the stuff that they're going to do behind the scenes, the lead up to WrestleMania, all the behind the scenes content. If you're a fan of, like us, of podcasts and what people say, man, there's going to be so much good stuff with WWE. They had an A+ year, a banner year. And the crazy part is, cuz the best is yet to come. I truly believe what Triple H said is that, hey, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what they can do creatively. And it just means that 2025 is going to be massive for WWE.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge year for them. I think the transition to Netflix will be good. I do want to double back real quick to the thing with Naomi. I think they're doing a great job right now. This is something we talked about. Setting Naomi up as the one who took Jade out.
Yep.
Adding some real heel motivation to Naomi. Maybe even working in Bailey. Remember, Bailey and Naomi are usually thick as thieves. I think it could be a very interesting turn. All of a sudden, Jade comes back and she points the finger at Naomi as being the one who takes her out. And you've got, Jade you've got Bianca and Naomi going out for a match. Maybe Jade gets involved in it and costs Bianca a title. Maybe that's how you end up getting to Bianca and Jade. I think there's some things you can do here. It is a little bit messy and it's been poorly explained, but I think you can clean it up as you go along. And I'll be interested to see how they do that as we head into 2025, as Raw goes to Netflix and as SmackDown. Stick around. We've got some news on SmackDown and some extension, if you will. Let's jump over to AEW. So you mentioned it. Rampage, Friday night. Last Rampage show that we'll have. Rampage is finally done. Rampage, when it first started, was something I was very high on. I watched it a lot. I made sure I made time for it. And as we got into probably year 3 of AEW Rampage, it became one of those things that became a little bit hit and miss for me. I would watch it. I wouldn't necessarily make time if, I would be working on stuff for this show and I would have it on in the background and kind of putting stuff together, and wouldn't really send you a rundown for this show until that was over, just because in case something happened. And then it became a show where you could go find the spoilers if you wanted them, and it really became an afterthought to watch it. I'll be honest with you, Collision is not really a forethought for me. Collision is kind of what Rampage was before Rampage became really obsolete to me. I don't think you're missing anything by missing Rampage. I don't think they do enough on that show. Now, I do know that they were using that show to add to stories, but it just didn't feel like it was necessary to watch. And with as much wrestling as we cover, I was taking that time and I was being selfish and I wasn't utilizing it. I myself am happy that Rampage is over. I'm happy that we're done with Rampage. We don't need it. It didn't do anything. I felt like Rampage could have been like your Saturday Night Heat, or Rampage could have been one of those shows where you got some of the more mid-card talent. You got them a little bit more refined, got them a little bit more TV time. You're putting them on in a time spot that's really difficult to watch, and you could have gotten them a little bit more exercise reps as to becoming a better professional. I know you kind of mentioned a little bit about Rampage when we opened. What are your thoughts with Rampage going away? I know you kind of are in the same boat as me. It's like, hallelujah, it's one less show we got to watch. It's finally done. You weren't doing a whole lot with it, but go in your own words and kind of tell us how you feel about it being over.
Yeah, those 7 minutes I spent scrolling through Rampage every week, I can get back and maybe I can text you more disgusting
You spent
things.
more time than me.
Yeah, right. So we're exposing ourselves here. It wasn't a good show. It was terrible. It was just one of those deals where it was worse than Superstars ever was. You never wanted to see it. It was on at a time where you're like, okay, I'm not going to watch it at Friday at 10 because it's right in the middle of the best show ever in 2020. And all the craziness that they air every single week on ABC. So we never watched it live. We never liked it. There was never anything really. And most of the time, you click. We can wrap Rampage up with this. Most of the time, for the last 2 years, everything that aired on Rampage, people would say, "You really put it on Rampage? Why? When you have Collision and Dynamite and everything, debuts, re-debuts, anything that showed up on Rampage." They just never were able to make it where people said, yeah, let's check out Rampage. It was just one of those deals where I guess the first sign was when, and I was excited for it, when we went to AEW and the Dynamite ended with that great 60-minute cage match, and then 3/4 of the crowd just said, fuck it, and left. And there was still a battle royal that was happening with a lot of superstars. And you were looking at me like, man, dog, I don't know if I can even last this long and stay and watch Rampage. So you taped it after Dynamite, which always made it feel like an afterthought, and the crowd was half dead because you just put on an amazing main event with great talent, and then you come back with, let's have our fourth mid-card talent wrestle each other, and then it was just never going to take off. And luckily, we put that to bed to never come back. Just stick to your 2 shows and get after it.
Yeah, you're right. I think the way that they did it really hurt it, right? So it was taped after Dynamite, so you would have your Dynamite show. And remember, before Dynamite, at the time, there was the AEW Before Dark or AEW After Dark that they would run, which was a YouTube series, and it was generally an hour long, and it was about 3 matches that you would get, and it was very low-end talent that WWE or that AEW was bringing along. So you would get there early, generally an hour to an hour and a half before Dynamite. You would get these matches that were very spaced out in that time before the show, so they could be then chopped up and put onto YouTube. And then you would get your 2-hour programming for Dynamite, which was usually very good. This is at the time where Dynamite was clicking on all cylinders, and it was exceptional. And then you would be so cashed out because it would be such a ride for 2 hours. Then they're like, hey, hold up. We're going to tape another show right after this. And like you said, I had to go to work the next morning. I was dragging ass the next day. I was so tired, and I ended up leaving just before we got through the first match of Rampage when we went and seen it live. You stayed, and you were right. The majority of the crowd just vacated, just left, and you didn't do your performers, you didn't do your show any justice by putting it on after the main show. Like you said, it was very much an afterthought. It was like, we got to somehow figure out a way to get an hour's worth of programming in. What they really and truly should have did was they should have did an hour before Dynamite started. If you could get there, great. If you couldn't, no big deal. You didn't necessarily need to show the people in the stands. And if you were going to show people in the stands, you could have did some live cuts from the Dynamite show to try to make it feel a little bit fuller if that's what you wanted to do. But very zoomed in cameras, very close on the ring, and really and truly get everybody going with that first hour. Don't burn them out, but get them going. Build them up to that opening of that show. Because the opening of Dynamite was very lackluster, if I remember. You had to have Tony Khan come out and be like, all right, come on, guys, let's go. And everybody was like, all right, yay. And it was one of those things where if you would have just kind of re-situated yourself, you would have just kind of worked your schedule a little bit different, it would have been much more enjoyable for everybody. And that show might have actually survived. However, it did not. And here we are. AEW is going to Max. It'll still be on TNT, TBS. We're going down to 2 shows. I know that they're trying to figure out what they're doing with Shockwave and whether that's going to be on a Fox network. Remains to be seen. But we are headed into 2025. We're coming off of the heels. We'll be coming off of the heels of an AEW pay-per-view called World's End. And these, my friend, are our predictions. We start off with MJF taking on Adam Cole. This is a match that has been a long time building. Remember, Adam Cole ended up breaking his foot. I believe that was very early this year. Maybe it was end of last year. It's been such a long time. These two have been chomping at the bit to finally get to each other. It sounds as though the Kingdom's going to be at ringside. So does the Kingdom play a bit and maybe turning on Adam Cole? Remember, MJF likes to buy everybody off. So could they play a role and attack Adam Cole behind the referee's back, allowing MJF to get the win? This is for the Dynamite Diamond Ring 2, I believe. Who do you have winning this match, MJF or Adam Cole?
Listen, it's going to be fun. I think these 8 matches could set the tone for 2025. I need to see MJF win this match, dude. He's a big star, and he's had some ups and downs and things like that. He needs this win more than Adam Cole. And you got to establish MJF for 2025 as being the man. And I look forward to seeing a good match. But in the end, you got to have MJF with the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think MJF gets the win as well. Like I said, I think the Kingdom maybe plays a role in costing Adam Cole this match. I could also see Kyle O'Reilly possibly costing Adam Cole this match. I think with MJF, right, he's come back, and I know he's come back from taping a couple of movies, and it just kind of feels as though he's in this very stagnated place. He's not really going anywhere. This storyline has kind of taken a long time, and I think it's been poorly told to get us to this point. So I think he gets the win. Hopefully we can kind of move on. Adam Cole can go do something else. MJF can go do something else, and we'll come back and see. Now, these next 2 matches have an impact on the third match. These are the semifinals for the Continental Classic. You'll have 1 semifinal, you have 2 semifinals, and then the winners of these semifinals will go on to compete in the finals. So it is important that you get these right, which becomes a bit of a challenge here. So our first semifinals, we've got Will Ospreay taking on Kyle Fletcher. I would love to see Kyle Fletcher win this. I think Kyle Fletcher coming away as the Continental Classic champion would be a fantastic thing. But when you look at all of the people who are competing in the finals, you've got Kyle Fletcher, you've got Ricochet, and you've got Okada. 3 of the 4 guys are all heels. I think you got to have a face in this. I think it's going to be Will Ospreay who beats Kyle Fletcher. This will be the second time that they meet. The first time Kyle Fletcher got the win. I think maybe this time Will Ospreay gets the dub. So I'm going to go Will Ospreay in this first semifinals because I feel like you need a babyface and you need a heel for the finals. I feel like it adds a little bit more impact if you do it that way. Who do you have winning this match?
Yeah, I think that the match that I want to see is the one that everybody wants to see. It stinks because it might happen later in the night, and you don't know how tired they will be. But Will Ospreay has to be one of the participants, and I'm looking forward to it because I thought the stare down that they had, I think on Collision, was pretty sweet, and I thought that Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, their story sells itself, and I expect a great match.
All right, you got Will Ospreay winning, I'm sorry?
I got Will Ospreay advancing, baby.
All right, so that leads us to our Continental Classic semifinal number 2, where you have Ricochet taking on Okada. Ricochet is gone with this very Andrew Tate-like persona, obviously a heel, getting booed a lot. I sent you a funny interaction he had with a fan where the fan kind of filleted him on his promo cutting, something that you and I have been very critical on Ricochet about. We both think he's a fantastic wrestler. Promos need lots of work. And then you've got Okada, who has, for the most part, with his run in AEW, has been a comic guy. He's been a funny man. Okada, at one point, much like Kenny Omega, considered one of the best wrestlers in all of the world, has been reduced to basically saying bitch and get laughs. It's his title. He's the one who's defending it in this tournament. Again, the tournament never really made sense because he was involved in it, and he could miss out on the finals if he loses this semifinals match. Who do you got winning this, Ricochet or Okada?
Man, as you were talking, cuz, this real sensation of doom just came over me. Why, you ask? Because I feel like Tony Khan's going to ruin what I want. I feel like he's got a hard-on for Will Ospreay and Ricochet to fight each other.
Yep.
And I am so upset just feeling that way. But I don't care. I said, come hell or high water, I'm going with my gut. I want to see Okada Ospreay. I think that's the money match. I don't care what Tony Khan thinks. I don't care if he does have Ricochet win, it'll just be a continuation of bad moves. I think Okada can benefit from having a great match against Ricochet, and then it's the match everybody wants to see for for the championship. Will Ospreay versus Okada. It harkens back to New Japan and all those G4 classics, all those matchups, all the great nostalgic. It has no logical sense to me to put Ricochet in this match. So that naturally, I just feel like it's going to come and Ricochet's going to cheat and he's going to do something or have some gimmick that happens that results in him winning. And I hope it doesn't happen because I'll just have to send a frowny face or find an emoji to represent my sadness. But I don't care. I'm picking Okada. You need to make sure that I hope his pen, when he books this show, says Okada Ospreay. That's the money match. That's the match people want to see. You've already blown the Ricochet Ospreay kind of situation. It's done. You've had multiple matches. So I need to see Okada and Ospreay to highlight this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree with you 110% here. I think he wants to recapture what you had with Will Ospreay and Ricochet years ago when they were over in the UK and they were putting on these crazy matches. You've tried it. You've tried it a couple of times. It hasn't been able to recapture the same momentum. It was different. It was at a different time. These were two relatively unknown guys who were doing crazy stuff. Everybody does the shit that they do now. Now, are they a little bit more refined at it? Sure. Are they a little bit better at it? Maybe. But there's a lot of people who are doing the same shit that they were doing now that they were doing, 5-10 years ago? Like, they basically help move the bar. At this point, they can't necessarily move the bar. You're not going to be able to recapture it. It was a different time, different place. I agree with you. I think Okada has to win this. Again, it's his belt. If he's not in the finals defending his belt, what the hell are we doing? It just doesn't make sense. This whole tournament didn't make sense with his placement in it to me to begin with. I think Okada wins this. I think Will Ospreay, Okada for the final. I think that's the money match. I think that could be a great match. I think this gives Okada the opportunity now to do something very, very serious and become that wrestler that he once was, that wrestler that he was in New Japan. He gets to do that here. He gets to break away from whatever that comedic character was or is. You don't need to do it. He can go back to being that bloodthirsty killer that he was in New Japan, and that would be fantastic. All right, so that then sets us up for a Continental Classic final. We have Will Ospreay taking on Okada. I think Will Ospreay wins it. I think it'll be a fantastic match. I think if you had Okada win it, I wouldn't be upset. That's how good I think this match will be. But I think Will Ospreay wins it. He becomes your new Continental Classic champion.
I agree 100%. It's the year of Will Ospreay. It's not a bad thing for Okada to retain, but I think that Will Ospreay, when you look at the potential superstar that you have, you probably have it where Ospreay wins, but Okada destroys him afterwards, and you can set up potentially a revenge situation down the road, or we'll see how it plays out or what evolves from the matchup. But I think that has a chance to be a very classic matchup that people will like.
Yeah, most definitely. Next, we've got our International Championship match. You got Takeshita taking on Powerhouse Hobbs. Takeshita will be defending his belt. I've got Takeshita winning. I've got him leaving with his championship. Look, I like the reintroduction of Powerhouse Hobbs. I think he'll be good. I just don't see him as championship material yet. I also think Takeshita, they blew their opportunity with him probably about 2 years ago. I think they're trying to recapture some of that momentum. I say you keep the belt on him. You keep him as one of the more dastardly heels, and I think you're in a better place if you do that. I've got Takeshita winning.
Yeah, it's got to be the year of Takeshita heading into 2025. He's a major star, and you dimmed his light a little bit in 24, but having a nice year-end classic good match against Powerhouse Hobbs, I think it'll be a good win. But I think at the same token, you need to have Hobbs come out of this looking really well, too, to kick off what should be a good year for him, too, if he stays healthy.
All right, next we've got the TBS Championship match. You've got Mercedes Moné defending her title against Chris Statlander. This will be the second time we got to see these two wrestle on a pay-per-view. Who do you have winning this one? Mercedes Moné, we talk about it all the time when we talk about her doing these pay-per-view predictions. She's kind of failed to meet the expectation of the fans. She's kind of failed to meet our expectations. It really feels like it is just a repackaged version of what you had with Sasha Banks, and don't necessarily know if it was a better repackaging. Chris Statlander, I feel like, has done a lot of really, really good work. I feel like Chris Statlander she is the epitome of kind of what you want as your mid-card champion. She is, I don't know if she has what it takes to be your main event champ, but she is such a solid mid-card champ. I feel like if you packaged her right and you gave her a really, really good push, you could make her believable as a main event player. But I feel like she is kind of right where she needs to be with that TBS championship. And I feel like if she won it, you'd be like, makes sense. And it would be really, really good for a while. Who do you have winning this, Mercedes Moné or Chris Statlander?
See, part of me leans towards maybe you start off the year with a new champion. It's one of those deals where, I think Chris Statlander would benefit from the win. So going into it, I would not be surprised if Mercedes Moné retains and heads into the year strong. But I'm going with what I want. I want to see Chris Statlander take the gold and have Mercedes chase a little bit. And so I think Chris Statlander walks away, because you got to have at least a title change. She walks away with the TBS television championship.
Yeah. You said Statlander?
I believe Chris Statlander should win this match to kick off the year. And part of the reason why you have stars is to have when the underdog gets an opportunity to kind of get over. So I think Chris Statlander deserves it and is going to walk out. I have a vision of Chris Statlander winning this matchup.
Yeah, I think as I was kind of building the case for Chris Statlander over Mercedes Moné, I talked myself into it. Initially, I was like, Mercedes Moné. I'm going to go Chris Statlander as well. I think Chris Statlander gets the win here, and I just think it's time. I think it's time you change that championship up. Look, I feel like you need to do other things with Mercedes Moné.
Right.
I feel like you brought her in, you're paying her all this money. She should be challenging for your Women's World Championship. She should be in that mix. She's nowhere near that right now. And look, I don't know if Mariah May, who we're going to talk about next, is much better as a women's champion. I know that she's got a look and she's got a little bit of sex appeal, but I don't know if her matches really carry water or weight. So I'm going to go Chris Statlander, which then leads us to the Women's World Championship match, because I think that'll be Mercedes Moné. Her sights will be set on that. I've got Mariah May. Look at that. Mariah Moné. I just mixed them all up. I got Mariah May winning her championship in a Tijuana street fight against Thunder Rosa. I've got her walking out still as the champion, and maybe that's where we go next. Maybe we go Mariah May, Mercedes Moné, and we head down that route for a little bit. Maybe Toni Storm gets reacclimated into all of this. Something we haven't really spent any time talking about, which we can do after we get your prediction, is how do you feel about Toni Storm and her new character, which seems like she forgot who her old character was. It's a little bit weird, a little bit wonky. She's back as the Punk character, but it feels like she jumped through a time warp to about, 3 years ago. So it's a little bit different. Who do you have winning, Mariah May or Thunder Rosa in a Tijuana street fight?
Yeah, Mariah May, Mercedes Moné. Say that 10 times.
Right.
See how that comes out. Look, I agree with you. I think that Mercedes Moné definitely should be in the title picture. Look, I think, though, that work has to be done for Moné to kind of feel like not just a charity because of her name. She's got to have wins. So maybe if she does end up winning against Statlander, she can have continued to kind of grow and have good matches and kick off 25, continuing to fight off challengers if that's the way they go. You got to build her up, because right now Mariah May is at the top of the card, and rightfully so. I do think that she's going to end up winning. Thunder Rosa, I think, can put on a great match. Many people will be clamoring for her to really highlight and have some nice spots as well. So it's going to be a good match. I'm excited for these women's matches to see what they bring to the table. So I do think that Mariah May will retain her title. And the Toni Storm thing is unique because, yeah, like you said, they just kind of have gone with that. The whole experience with the vintage Toni Storm, the timeless Toni Storm character has been erased from her memory. So it'll be fun to see if something jars it coming up, or if anything happens to make her remember, or why she has forgotten it. But I like I like the Toni Storm character in pretty much all variations, because she's just one of those people that have it, and now you got to just match it in the ring and have some good matches.
Yeah, for sure. The Toni Storm thing I find to be so fascinating, because she had a character with Timeless Toni Storm, which I think was probably her best character she's ever had. And it was like she went away for a couple of weeks, and then they brought her back, and she was like, "No, I'm gonna hit the reset button." But I'm not gonna just hit the reset button and go back to being punk rock Tony Storm. I'm gonna hit the reset button and go back to 2021. I'm gonna go back to COVID, and I'm gonna come back as that Tony Storm. And I think it's working. You know, you see a little bit here and there, and I think it's working. It's going to be interesting to see how it ends up playing out. But I think you're right. She's one of those people who can take a little bit and give you a lot, which is awesome. And I think she's going to do that. It'll be interesting to see when she gets back into that title picture and when she maybe remembers what Mariah May did to her, when she remembers how that relationship dissolved and how she was once a champion and Mariah May took that from her and what motivation that gives her. Like you said with Mercedes Moné, you're right. You've got to do something to make her feel important. It was cool that she came over, and it's cool that she is the name that she is, but she's done nothing since she's been there. She's given nothing back. If the reports are true that she's making $10 million a year, she's given nothing back to be worth anything near that amount of money. So at some point, you've got to hit the reset button. You've got to be open to some changes. You've got to do something different, because what you're doing right now just really is not working. So it'll be interesting to see where we go, what we do, and how it all ends up with Mercedes Moné. That brings us to our main event. It's the World Championship. It's a 4-way match between Jon Moxley, who will be defending his title, taking on Hangman Page, Orange Cassidy, and Jay White. At certain points, you've seen these three team up against Moxley, and at other points, you've seen these three want to tear each other apart, tear each other to bits, where Jon Moxley capitalizes on it. Who do you have winning this match? I feel like this is one of the tougher matches to predict. In my mind going into this match, I kind of have my mind made up. I wonder if you sway me at all, though. Who do you have winning this and why?
Well, with the love that Tony Khan showed Jon Moxley, I just think that he probably will end up retaining. But I just think that you got to shake things up a little bit. You got to go into the new year with a new champion. So it's not going to be Orange Cassidy. I don't think that at all. So it's going to be potentially between Jay White and Adam Hangman Page. I just see Hangman Page kind of starting the year off strong and needing a title to kind of put him back in the mix. Now, Jay White, I would love to see. That would be kind of shocking too, to see him kind of hold the title. But at this point in time, I think that Moxley, his reign has been interesting, but not good enough, I think, to hold the company to the point where you say, that's the guy I want to see. Hangman Page could have so many interesting feuds moving forward, and then probably the first one is Jon Moxley trying to get his belt back. So to me, I don't care. I probably am 98.5% wrong, but I'm just going with what I want. I want it to be either Jay White or Hangman Page, so I'm just picking Hangman Page to end up winning the championship and holding the belt with confetti and just starting the year off fresh with somebody new.
All right, so you got Jay White.
I got Hangman Page, but I would also love it if it was Jay White. But I got Hangman Page being the winner.
My bad. So I got you down for Hangman. I'm going Jon Moxley. You didn't do enough to sway me here. I think you could make a case for any one of these guys, and I think you could tell a really, really interesting story with any one of these guys if they were to come out the champion. I think Hangman Page is a fantastic pick. With the four of them, I lean a little bit more Jon Moxley because I feel like there is a bigger story to be told. I'm not sure who it's going to be with. Maybe it's with Jay White. Maybe it's with Hangman Page. Perhaps it's with Orange Cassidy or maybe even Darby Allin, who's kind of on the outside looking in. I think Jon Moxley wins. If I had to give it a percentage, I would say Jon Moxley is my 45%. I would say Hangman Page is probably my 30%. I would say Jay White and Orange Cassidy are probably 12.5% each. My two big front runners are the guys that you and I are picking here. But I'm going to go Jon Moxley. Again, I think he wins. I think he tells a bigger story somewhere down the line, and we have a title change later on. Also, 4-way match. Remember this. With these types of matches, outside interference is usually allowed. So he's got the Death Riders that he can call on at any time, it would appear. So we'll see what takes place with this. When we go to calling the card, I've got a bit of a 4-point lead. Go over the matches real quick. We've got 8 matches, starting with the World Championship. I've got Jon Moxley retaining. You've got Hangman Page unseating him. We go to the Women's World Heavyweight Championship match, the Tijuana Street Fight. We both have Mariah May beating Thunder Rosa. We both have Chris Statlander becoming the new TBS champion. We both have Takeshita retaining his international championship. We both have Will Ospreay making it to the finals and winning the Continental Classic. He'll do that over Okada. And then we both have MJF beating Adam Cole. It'll be a really, really interesting, fun event for World's End with AEW. Real quick, like we had mentioned before, lots of pre-taped shows. What was your show of the week? I want to give my point to SmackDown. It was live. I thought what we got from Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes at the very, very end helped salvage that SmackDown episode. I kind of felt like it was kind of mailed in. But you are getting some new interesting stories with the Garzas and Street Profits. You're working them back in. You've got Pretty Deadly, who are now kind of getting looped into that tag that tag team realm again. They're not just kind of on the sideline looking in. So you're doing some work with your tag team. You also got to see Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu mix it up a little bit on SmackDown, which was kind of nice. You got to see the two big guys go at it. So what was your show of the week? I'm giving mine to SmackDown.
I agree with you. I thought SmackDown was very high quality, and being live was cool. And I just thought that the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes thing definitely brought it to a crescendo where you could give it credit for ending the year pretty strong.
All right, you ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So this TNA star sounds like they are WWE bound soon. Jordynne Grace sounds like she'll be headed to WWE once her contract with TNA expires in January of 2025. Grace teased this in a social media post this past week. Grace made her WWE debut at the 2024 Royal Rumble and went on to make several appearances in NXT. Recently, Grace would face Rosemary on Friday, December 13th at the TNA Final Resolution event, although the match would end in a no contest as a masked assailant attacked Grace before ultimately being revealed to be the returning Tessa Blanchard. Grace was very open and public about not wanting Blanchard back in TNA. So just remember that. There was some stuff that obviously did not go well. We talked a little bit about Tessa Blanchard coming back to TNA and kind of what happened with that. I think it was about an episode or maybe 2 episodes ago. We have some confirmation on some programming changes. WWE confirmed that SmackDown would be moving to 3 hours on the USA Network, beginning with the January 3rd episode. Earlier this week, we got confirmation on what the plan will be with Monday Night Raw. Dave Meltzer has now provided an update on F4W Online Daily. According to a key player in WWE, Meltzer stated that as everyone expects, the show will be 3 hours come January. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer provided more details, saying one of the things that they had told me, the beauty of Netflix is that we don't have to fit a show into a time slot. But the thing is, there's still places in the world where these shows are still on television where you need to fit them into a time slot. Raw will be televised in India for a couple of months, Germany, the Philippines, Japan, and a lot of other places that still have existing TV deals. So until those TV deals go away, the stations have to know how long these shows are going to be week to week. There will come a time, and it's not too far away, where Raw won't be on TV. And at that point, they'll have a lot more leeway, and they probably won't have to hit time cues. So 3-hour time shows all around right now with SmackDown and Monday Night Raw, at least for the foreseeable future. Sticking with changes to programming, this 20-year tradition in WWE is done. WWE's Tribute to the Troops show is done, with 2024 passing without the company holding an event for the first time in 2 decades. Since 2003, WWE has presented the Tribute to the Troop event, where they visit the troops in Afghanistan, Iraq, for shows every December for the holidays. In recent years, they have gone on to a tape format, but there was always something done. During the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that WWE's Tribute to the Troops is done for now, with a lack of a 2024 edition of the show, breaking the 20-year tradition. He said, yeah, no more, it's done. It's just not been taped. They've got too many other things going on. I don't know if it's done for good, but this is the first year they haven't done anything with that. 2019, I believe they didn't do a television show, but they still did an event and tape stuff. But this year, nothing. Remember, we had Saturday night's main event. I feel like that kind of took that time slot, that what would have normally been that Tribute to the Troops, that took that over. So we did not get Tribute to the Troops this year. This original AEW wrestler re-ups with the company. Earlier this week, Dustin Rhodes got a Christmas gift in a way of a new multi-year deal. He signed with AEW. In a tweet, he thanked AEW and Tony Khan and expressed his desire to finish his career with the company. This deal comes after months of working without a contract and amid much speculation that he could head back to WWE to partner with his brother Cody. And finally, this WWE star got engaged this week on her Instagram. Maxine Dupree announced her engagement to NXT star Anthony Luke, with many fellow WWE sharing their congratulations. Luke signed with WWE through its Next in Line program in October of 2023, following a tryout in August of that year. He has appeared on NXT Live's house show circuit throughout 2024. However, he is yet to make his television debut. We wish the two many congratulations. And that's going to do it for this week's news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. It's been a great year. Our last episode of 2024. It's been a fun year. Hope everybody had a great holiday. It's been a big year for professional wrestling. And now, in the second half of the 2020s, it's going to be big as AEW and WWE forge their path forward with new television deals. TNA now as well, kind of expanding in Canada. A lot of good things happening with them as they approach their next pay-per-view. So it's going to be a fun time to kick off 2025 talking about wrestling. AEW, WWE, a lot of good stars, and a nice debut potentially happening for WWE with stars that have been upset with AEW. So it's going to be back and forth. I'm curious to see what's going to shake out in the coming months. It's going to be fun for the road to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And AEW now is tasked with kind of shifting their direction and trying to get back a lot of the fans that have been lost over the last couple of years. So even though AEW is not firing on all cylinders, the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast is, and we appreciate your support. Thanks, everybody. Everywhere that you listen to your favorite audio content, whether it be Odyssey, iTunes, TuneIn, anywhere at all that podcasts are found, you can listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast. Just type in those three words, Detroit Sports Podcast. The heel of the broadcast community, the DSP network. Hit us up, message us if you like or dislike anything at all that you like, real fast because it's great. Covering the Lions and covering wrestling, people will just say, this is what you guys talk about on your podcast? And they'll say, and it's always great to play that character, they'll say, are you proud of yourself for talking about that? Are you proud of yourself for posting that on the internet, talking about your health status and all that stuff? Well, the answer to that question to the fan that sent it is hell yes, we're proud of it. Why? Because we're independent, we own the outlet, so we have the ability to do whatever the hell we want within the realm of some level of decency. But the blessing, and I tell all reporters that I talk to, the reason our partnerships work, the reason Adam and I have had the most fun is we're authentic, we're independent, we are a group of individuals that have the ability through the internet airwaves to say whatever we want. So to answer your question, fan, hell yes, I'm proud to post that. And if you don't like it, kick rocks. I don't need you. It's good. Me and Adam don't need you. We got enough. Listeners come in, and we have enough supporters, and it's been great because you guys have allowed it for 12 years to be able to fire up the microphones, talk shit, and look, one of those deals where that's the best part of this whole thing is we can do what we need to do to have fun. And that's what Adam and I are committed to doing in 24, 25, 26. And it's been great, a great run for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Cause Happy New Year, ho, 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 motherfucker. It's going to be great in 2025. I can't wait to fire it up on the next episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.